Okay, so a very good evening, guys. Can y'all let me know if y'all can hear me and see a screen? Yes. Can hear, can see. All good. Yeah, others? Okay, right. A few things to check. One is I just got a message on the chat box as well. Is there anyone here, Lamai, who don't have the Unit 1 tute yet? You have not yet got the Unit 1 tute? There was one person who texted. Anyone else don't have it? Okay, I think there are two or three people. Right. So what I will do is I will put a poll. So probably after today's class or maybe during the break, I will have Lamai a poll on the WhatsApp group. Right. So on the WhatsApp group, I'll put a poll saying if you don't have the tute to vote on that poll. So if you don't have the tute, vote on the poll. The admin will have a look at it and then they will send the tute. So I hope all of you all have filled the registration form as well. Okay. Because after you pay the fees, there is a form to fill. If you have filled that, most likely your tute will come because anyway, the last few days were holidays, no Saturday, Sunday is a holiday. Friday was a poor. So there the courier doesn't operate. So if your tute has been sent, it should come in the next couple of days. If not, it will be sent tomorrow. Then you will get it, let's say by around Wednesday, you should be able to get your tute. So I'll send a poll, vote on that, then the admin will see and they will sort things out for you. Okay. The second thing I wanted to check is in terms of your short note. So if you remember last week, I gave you all some homework to make a short note for the first focus area. So some of y'all have made, y'all have sent. It was really nice. Some notes were very comprehensive, some were very colorful, some were very creative. So it was nice to see the short notes anyway differs from person to person. Your short note doesn't have to be the same as someone else's short note. So how people make a short note will be different. Some people will have so much of text, some people might draw pictures, right? So whatever thing that works for you so that you remember the story. Okay, for those who have not yet made the short note, you can take the next couple of days. I want you to finish it off soon. Focus area number one. Now, today we have something interesting at the end of today's class. We have a small quiz as well. And so we have a small quiz from all what we have learned so far. So far we have done 3 classes. Today is the 4th class. Okay. Yeah, that short note, guys, you can send it on the temporary group. I have sent a message. I don't know if you just joined the group, that message you would have missed. There is a temporary short note group. So join that group, send your short note, leave the group. That group is there for me to collect all the short notes in one place, because otherwise when all of you all send me personal messages, it's in different chats. No, that's why I have a temporary group. You send it, you leave, then I can see all of it in one place. Good. Right, so we'll get started today. I wanted to do a bit of an extra class today. Remember last week we talked about having a longer one, but then got a little busy because tomorrow I'm starting the mock exam series for the 2025 students. So there is a lot of work. They're registering, adding them to the group, sorting all of that. Took a lot of time. So anyway, we are on track. We'll get things done. So Sunday class will continue as it is until we finish unit 1. Most likely in another 2 weeks, I will start unit 2. So in unit 2, that one I will be combining you with my first batch. So that happens on Wednesday. I'll inform you the time and all of it when you have to join. So not this Wednesday. Most likely, maybe sometimes it could be next Wednesday or the Wednesday after that, depending on when I start. I will let you know. Okay. And then in the meantime, your unit 2 tute will also come somewhere soon. So let me share my screen. Let's get started. Where are we? We are. Okay. Okay. Right. So if you remember last class, now until page number 7 was what we called focus area number 1. Right? That was the first part of this unit. And I told you to make a short note from this. For those who have not made, you can make it. You can send it on the group. And then last class, we started the second area. That is where we started talking about goods. So what was goods? Anything that satisfies human wants, anything that provides positive utility or satisfaction is what you call the good. There were two types, economic, non-economic. What were economic goods? Goods that were limited in supply. Non-economic goods are unlimited in supply, right? We talked about that. Then we talked about resources. Resources also, we had the same story, no? We had economic resources, resources that are limited in supply, and then you had non-economic resources, resources that are unlimited in supply. Then we talked a little bit about natural resources and all of it. And today what we are going to do is we are going to start off talking about economic resources in detail. So economic resources, when I say in detail, we are talking about what? The four factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. So my target for today is to finish off land and labor, but I think we should be able to do something with capital as well. So we have a quiz also. So listen carefully of what we are learning today. At the end of the class, we'll have a small quiz. It's a nice, interesting competition. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so listen, let's start. So we'll start with page number 10, economic resources or your factors of production. Now, what are economic resources? We say the resources that are limited in supply. They are limited in supply. Now, these resources can be broadly classified into two. Now, before you go and classify it as land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, which you all know, there is another classification. The other classification is you can classify them as property resources and human resources. Can you all tell me from this land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, which ones do you think are property resources? Oh, we'll forget about property resources. Which ones do you think are the human resources? There are two. From land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship, which one do you think are human resources, have human involvement? Which one? Human? From land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. There are two that involves human beings. What are the two? Labor, definitely. Okay, so you have labor as a human resource. What else? How about entrepreneurship? An entrepreneur is also labor. So entrepreneurship will also be a part of human resources. Then which ones do you think are the property resources? If labor and entrepreneurship are the human resources, property resources, that is, you have land, then what is left? Land and capital. So land and capital are the property resources, and labor and entrepreneurship are called human resources because those are human beings. That's the story there. So that's the broad classification. Now, in general, if they ask you what are the four factors of production, you say land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. But there is a much broader classification than that. You have human resources and property resources. Labor and entrepreneurship are human, land and capital are property resources. So we'll start with land. Okay. Now, what is land? Land, we say, are all natural resources, right? Natural resources. When you say natural, it's not made by man. All natural resources gifted by nature, and they are scarce, means they are limited. So things like what? Here, see, for example, forests, minerals, wild animals, right? Let's say even if you take, let's say, a normal plot of land, trees, all of those can be considered as what? As land. What is land? All natural resources that are gifted by nature that we use in the production process. All the natural that are limited. Now, even for example, these different minerals like gold, silver, let's say petroleum, coal, all of that, you can put it under land. So we'll go a little bit into detail into the characteristics of land. Is in all natural resources. What are the characteristics? Number one. So number one says being a gift of nature. What does that mean? That means it is not man-made. Very easy. Being a gift of nature. It's gifted by nature. It's not something that people have made. Okay. So being a gift of nature, what does that mean? It is not man-made. That's an easy one. Now look at the second characteristic. That's easy. That's a interesting one. Supply being inelastic. Can you all tell me, why do we call a rubber band elastic? Why do we call a rubber band elastic? Forget about this land story. Now, all of you all know a rubber band. Right? We say a rubber band is elastic. Why? Why is it elastic, Lavai? Why is a rubber band called elastic? Because you can do what with it? Hmm? Can send me answer on the, can send it only to me. You can send it to everyone. Right? I've got a few answers because you can what? You can stretch it, right? You can change the size of it. You can easily change it, right? That is why you call a rubber band elastic, because you can easily change. You can stretch it, then, turn it around, and you can do that. So if elastic means you can easily change, what does inelastic mean? Inelastic means not easy to change, not easy to increase. So here, see, I am saying for land, I am saying supply being inelastic. What does that mean? That means the amount of land, the amount of land, the amount of land cannot be increased easily, cannot be increased easy. Now, for example, take a tree, Vilulaman. Now, can you produce a tree in a day? You can't. For a tree to grow and for it to get big, it'll take time. Can you produce, for example, animal in a day? Can you get, for example, things like, now think of coal, petroleum, these natural gases. Can you produce it easily? No, it's not easy to increase. That's why we say supply being inelastic. Inelastic means hard to change. Right? Remember the rubber band. Elastic and easy to change. Inelastic means it's difficult to change. So that's why we say the supply of land is not that it's perfectly. You can increase now. Trees also you can increase now. You can plant trees and increase trees, but you can't increase it in a day. Now tomorrow I can't all of a sudden get 100 coconut trees in Illinois. For me to for me to grow a coconut tree, for it to get big and to give coconuts, it might, let's say, take, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years. So it takes time. That's why we say supply being inelastic. And then the third one, third characteristic says geographical immobility. What do you all think that is? What do you think geographical immobility means? Any guesses? Okay, I'll make it easy for you. Okay. The most of y'all, okay, some of you are give me an answer. Most of y'all know. Now you have a phone with you, know. That phone is called a mobile phone. Why is it called a mobile phone? The phone that you have. Why do you call it a mobile phone? Because okay, when people move, yes, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in labor. So it's called a mobile phone because you can take it around and go, no? You can put it in your pocket and go here, go there, because compared to those landlines, remember earlier people had landlines, these fixed. How many people have a landline at home? Yes. Have a landline? Which I don't think you really use, but sometimes your parents maybe they might be using Podduck. But most houses don't. No, now landlines. So now compared to that, why do we call this a mobile phone? Because you can move around. Right? That's what you call mobility. Then what do you think immobile means? I am saying land is geographically immobile. Geographical immobility. What is that? You can't move, no? Now, can you move one tree from one place to another place? Can you move a river from one place to another place? You can't. The only thing maybe you can move is maybe animals. Animals can move. But in general, if you take land, they can't move. That's why we say geographical immobility. So geographical immobility means land cannot be moved, cannot be moved from one place to another. Place to another. That is what geographical immobility means. So repeating again, Lama, if anyone joined newly, we are talking about the 4 factors of production. Those are called economic resources. We started with the first one. First one is land. What is land? Land is all the natural resources. The natural resources that are limited, that are scarce, that are used in the production process. So we talked about 3 characteristics. First one is it's a gift of nature. That means it is not man-made. Trees, rivers, animals, coal, they are all gifts of nature. Second one, supply is inelastic. It's difficult to increase. You can't easily increase the supply. Third one, geographical immobility. You can't move a land from one place to another. You can't take a tree from one place and put it somewhere else. It doesn't work like that. And then number 4, possibility to improve productivity. What does this mean? Can you all tell me? Right? Let's say I have a small plot of land, we'll say, okay. I have let's say, a very small plot of land, let's say, okay, a 10 perch plot of land. Okay, so this is my plot of land. I'll draw this land down. Okay. I have a small 10 perch plot of land that I am growing some vegetables. You know, in this entire land, right, full I have some vegetables. Let's say for a month, okay, with this plot of land that I am growing, I don't know, think of any vegetable you all like. Let's say I am getting 10 kilos of harvest. For a month, I get a harvest of 10 kilos. Can you all tell me, with this same plot of land, how do you think I can improve my productivity? How do you think with the same plot of land, can I increase my output? Can you think of a way? With the same plot of land, same number of trees, instead of 10 kilos, is there a way that I can get 15 kilos? How can I do that? What can you do? Okay, maybe growing multiple vegetables, definitely that's possible, but there's a more direct answer than that. Anything else? Think of a farmer. What does a farmer do to get more output from their crops? From your same crops, what do you do? Yes, cultivation, all of it, fine. What do you do? You can use fertilizer. Pohora, carbonic, the organic, all those fertilizer you can use. What else can you use? Maybe pesticides. Maybe there are so much of pests that are coming and eating your thing. That's why most of your harvest is getting destroyed. Only 10 kilos is left. So you can use pesticides. So all of that is what? To improve productivity. So you can improve productivity of your land. What does improve productivity mean? From the same amount of land, how are you going to get a higher output? So how can you get a higher output from the same land, same number of trees? Maybe you can use things like fertilizer, right? So maybe usage of, so I like to use matching colors. Okay. So let's say usage of fertilizer, right? Then pesticides. I'll give you a very interesting pesticides. Okay. I'll give you a more complex, interesting example for this, right? Not very complex also. Do you all know, Lamai? Have you all seen? Do you all know these bud trees? Bud trees. Small trees that give a lot of fruits compared to the, now earlier back in the day, Lamai, now when you take a mango tree, how big is a mango tree? A mango tree will grow so much, right? It will take, let's say, 5 years for you to get fruits. But have you all seen these small bud mango trees? Mango, all the fruits are there. Small trees that give you a lot of fruits. What is that? You don't need a lot of space. It doesn't take that long for you to grow. What have you done? You have improved the productivity of it. So those are genetically modified things, Lama. You take the, I don't know how they do it, so there should be a science behind it. Maybe you take the seed, then inject some chemical low, I don't know, something you might be doing. So as a result, now can you see the productivity of that tree is higher, no? Usually, if you take a mango tree, it needs so much of space. So much of space, it'll take around 5-10 years for fruits to come if you start now. If you plant a seed now, it will take 5-10 years for fruit to come. But if you take these bud trees, within around 2-3 years, fruits are coming and the tree doesn't grow that big. Maybe it's the tree might be maximum, let's say, size of one of your room. That's all it goes at. And you get so much of fruits also. So what is that? Improved productivity. See, possibility to improve productivity. The same tree, lesser space, you're getting more fruits. Now, there is a more interesting example in the world. That is this. Now, how do you all think this happened? Now, if you all remember, I don't know if you all, I don't think you've all heard of. Back in the day, there was something called a world food shortage. Now, in the 1700s, 1800s, 1700s, 1800s means around 300 years ago. So there was there was a food shortage. Why was there a food shortage? Two reasons. One is, right, in the 1700s, one is the population was increasing. Right? So population was increasing means like you need more and more food. No? Right? And also population is increasing means the land available for agriculture is reducing. Now, then people will go and now start building houses and all of that. So because of this, right, the land for agriculture, right, the land for agriculture was coming down and now more and more people are there. So then the world was heading towards a world food shortage. That was in the 1700s. Now, 300 years later, situation should have got worse. No, 300 years later, now still the world population is increasing. The land available for agriculture is going down. But we don't have a food shortage now. There is nothing called a food shortage in the world. There could be individual countries that are very poor. They might have a problem, but overall, there is no food shortage. So you know what happened, Lamai? Back in the day, in this 1700s, you had the paddy, right? You all know this interesting thing, right? I'll show you how they utilized it. You had the paddy. Now you all know this paddy crop. Okay, so what you get rice from. Okay, so this paddy crop, okay, let's say this is the paddy crop. Now, back in the day, this paddy crop was very weak. Right? So even if a small disease comes, entire make cadena, right? Even if let's say a little bit it doesn't rain, there were issues. So different parts of the world had different paddy crops. Now in Asia, we had one type of a thing. So maybe the Asian one, small pest comes, Tagala, it will destroy. The one in, let's say, Europe, they had another problem. The one in US and all, they had another problem. The one in Africa had another problem. So all these paddy crops in different regions in the world had what? Had different issues. So the land is different, the weather is different. So there were different issues. So as a result, when you grow this paddy crop, right, you get a very little output only because so much gets destroyed. So you know what they did? They improved the productivity of this paddy crop. You know how they did that? They took samples of paddy crops from all around the world. So the Asian paddy crop, the European one, the US one, the African one, they took paddy crops from all over the world. And what they did was they looked at, now this is science, genetically, they saw, okay, what are the strong characteristics of each of these? So they took the, I don't know how you do that, that is scientific, right? They combined all of those four and they made one genetically modified strong paddy crop. So even right now today, that is the paddy crop that is being used now. So you had all these weak ones. So let's say this very weak one, let's say it gives you 10 grains of rice, right? But now when you made that stronger crop, that is much stronger, that's giving a much higher output because you combine the genetics of all the paddy crops around. And now if you take the paddy crop, right, now the same paddy crop that was giving earlier, let's say 10 grains of rice, now it is giving, let's say 100 grains of rice. So what did they do? The same paddy crop, but what did they do? They improved the productivity of it. And that is what my fourth point is, possibility to improve productivity. So you can even talk about those bud trees. Small tree, lot of fruits, higher productivity. Same thing with this rice story also. Same thing with even if you have a small plot of land, you're using fertilizer, same thing. What are you doing? You're improving productivity. So you have that. You can even give an example of genetically modified crops. So those are these bud plants and all. Modified crops. That's characteristic number 4. Then characteristic number 5. Number 5, I am saying non-uniformity. What you wear to school is called a uniform. Why is it called a uniform? All of you all, most of you all go to school. It's called a uniform. Why do we call that a uniform? Because it's the same, right? Because everyone wears the exact same thing. Because otherwise people will wear these posh clothes and all of that and come. That's why it's called a uniform. So here I am saying non-uniform. What does that mean? I'm saying land has characteristic for land is non-uniformity. Meaning it's not the same. Is one tree the same as another tree? Is one river the same as another river? No, it's different. So that's what we say, non-uniformity. So the land differs from each other. Now, that is not the story, Nama. If you take, let's say, for example, capital, we learn capital later. Like take a machine. Now, one machine and another machine can be exactly the same, no? Now, take phones or take a laptop. Let's say one Dell laptop and the same another Dell laptop can be exactly the same. But land, you don't get that. So can you say may tree is exactly same as that tree? No. One animal is exactly same as animal. So that's why the land differs from each other. It's not the same, non-uniformity. And then the final characteristic we say, it's not really a characteristic, but have that in mind. Payment for land being rent. That is, if you provide land as a factor of production, the money you get in return is called rent. I'll give you an example. Okay. Now let's say I have a cow. I have a what? I have a cow. I own a cow. What is cow? Cow is land, natural resources. Remember, my land is not just a plot of land, any natural resource. So I have a cow. Now my cow, I gave it to the Ambevela farm. Like in Nuwara, they have the Ambevela farm. Let's say my cow, I gave it to the Ambevela farm for them to use it and get some milk. Now, I won't give it for free, no. So every month, let's say the Ambevela farm is paying me 25,000 rupees. I gave my land, my natural resource. In return, they're giving me 25,000 rupees every month. So that payment I get in economics is called rent. So we say payment for land being rent. So if you provide any natural resource, the return you get for it, the money you get for it in economics is called rent. Now, in our real world, rent is different. Real world is if you give a house or building, money you get is called rent. So, methana rent is not that. This is the return for land, natural resources, like maybe a cow, maybe some, let's say, for example, I have a teak, I have a teak tree in my garden. So I told the furniture manufacturing firm, okay, you come and cut and take it and go for you to make furniture. And then he will give me some money. So that money will then be called rent. The return for land, return for you for providing a natural resource. That's the last one. Okay. Nothing that right though. Maybe if you want, just have an example of the cow. Okay. So that's the whole story about land. Is that okay, Lamai? I'll fine. Land is all the natural resources that are scarce, used in the production process. And then we have all the characteristics of land. Anyone has any questions? See if there is anything that is not clear, anything you want more information on. Set. Then we'll move into labor. Okay. can I just say the sixth characteristic? The sixth characteristic, that is the payment for land. If you provide land as a factor of production, the money you get in return is called rent. If you provide land as a factor of production, the money you get in return is what you call rent. That's what the last one is. All good. The break I'll give you somewhere around at around 8. Okay. Okay, so we'll do labor. I'll do labor and give you a break. Cool. So what is labor? We say labor is the physical and mental effort of human beings that are used in the production of goods and services. Labor is not the person. Remember that. Labor is not the person. Labor is the physical and mental effort of that person. Now, for example, for me to do this class, now I'm talking, I'm shaking my hands, I'm doing, that's my physical effort. Then for me deciding what to talk, what to write, there's a mental effort. Now, that is what you call labor, but it's connected to the person. So without a person, you won't have physical, mental efforts. So that's why we say labor is the physical and mental efforts. You can say, if you want, you can add of human beings, or of, you can just say of humans used to produce goods and services. That is what you call labor. Then what are the characteristics? Characteristics are easy for labor. Number one, it's a live factor. Now, labor, it's coming from a living being. It's not coming from a machine. It's a living being. That's why we say number one, live factor. Then if you can see characteristic number 2, I am saying mobility. Now here mobility, there are actually 2 types. So one is what we talked about before, that is geographical mobility. So land labor has geographical mobility. So what does that mean? Geographical mobility means now do I have, can I only do this class at home, Lama? Can I go somewhere else and do this class? I can, no? So I don't have to be exactly at this place and do it. Now, do I have to exactly work at one place all the time? No. I can move around. I can work in Sri Lanka. I can go to, let's say, India and work, Australia and work, Canada and work, Candy and work, Gaul and work. I can move around and work. So you can provide your labor at various different locations. That's what you call geographical mobility. You can move around. And also, so this means, like, I'll just write a small point. Labor can be moved from one place to another, from one place to another. That is geographical mobility. There is another type of mobility. The other type of mobility is what we call occupational mobility. Now, if you take labor, now can I only do Lamai? Can I only do classes? Is that the only thing I can do? Is that the only occupation I can do? Is that the only thing I can do? No, right? If I want, I can stop classes and go and do something else. That's what you call occupational mobility. Maybe right now I'm teaching, I'm working full-time for econ firm as well. But if I don't like it, I will stop it and I will go somewhere else. So you can do that. That is what you call occupational mobility, right? You can do different things with your labor. But land also, you don't have that. Now, for example, take a river. A river, the purpose is to provide water. Can a river say, no, I'm not going to provide water, I'm going to provide sunlight? But labor, you can. Labor can be moved from place to place. It's geographically mobile. And also it's occupationally mobile. You can do different jobs. You don't have to do the same thing. That's what you call occupational mobility. So maybe we can ability to do various jobs. You don't have to do the same thing. You can do multiple different things. So that's what you call mobility. So one is, it's a life factor, it's a living being. And second one is mobility. So there are 2 types of mobility. One is geographical mobility. You can move from place to place. Second one is occupational mobility. What is occupational mobility? You can do different jobs. I don't have to only be teaching. I can teach. I can, let's say, do marketing. I can do sales. I can become a finance manager. I can do whatever I want. That's what you call occupational mobility. Right. Then number 3, heterogeneity. What is this? What is heterogeneity? We learn this in, you all learn this in science. Homogeneous, heterogeneous. Heterogeneous කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? What is this heterogeneity? The labor is different. Now, is my physical and mental effort the same as your physical and mental effort? No, no. Right. Maybe, for example, teaching, I am better. That's why you all are paying me and coming. Maybe for something else, you might be better. Right. So that's what you call heterogeneity. So one person's physical and mental effort is not the same as another person's physical and mental effort. Right. So you can say labor differs in these also non-uniform, differs from person to person. So my physical and mental effort is not your physical and mental effort. I can do different things, you can do different things. That's what you call heterogeneity. And then even labor, you can improve productivity of labor. How do you improve the productivity of labor? With the same amount of labor, how can you get more output? You can train your people, you can educate your labor. Now, even experience. Now, I remember when I started classes, and I started teaching Lamai in somewhere around in 2000, right after A-levels. I did A-levels in 2017. After that, I started like doing small individual classes, right? So I remember during those classes, sometimes now before the class, I spend so much of time for me to personally study that area. So I go through my school notes, I study it only and I come and do the class. Right? So for me to do a 2-hour class, I spend around 1 hour before to learn everything and come to refresh my memory. But now I don't do that. Right now, if it's like a very difficult area, I sometimes spend some time to see how I can simplify it to the students. But now let's say, for example, this area, I would have sent you the class link at around 6:30. I send it on the group. By around 6:45, I come and sit on my table. I set up my camera, open this. I on the Zoom meeting, I connect my iPad. By around 6:55, I'm sitting in front, ready to go. And then at around 7, if everyone, most of them are there, I start my class. So now see, now I am more productive. Earlier to do one class, I have to waste around 1 hour, 2 hours before the class. But now I don't do that. Why? Because now I'm more experienced. I've been doing that thing for a long time. So that's it. That's improving productivity. So you can improve productivity of labor through education, through training, by providing experience. All of that improves the productivity. What is productivity? We'll talk about productivity later also. That is, with the same amount of labor, you're trying to get a higher output. How do you do that? By training your people, providing education, giving them experience, all of that can work. Then number 6, possibility of decision making and organization. Now, as labor is a human being connected thing. So a human being can make decisions. A human being can organize things. Now, if you take, now usually as a this thing, now I can make decisions. Now, for example, my 2025 batch. Right now, this batch has got very hectic. I'm wondering what to do now. So I usually try to limit the number of students that I get to around 300. Usually I don't take more than that because it's personally hard for me now, especially now I have 3 batches running. Your batch is also there. Now your batch, there is around, still people are registering. Around 50, 60 people are there. First batch again, there is around 150 people. So total there is around 200, 250 people. The 2027 new batch. Then 26 batch again, there is a little bit even. 27, 25 batch even. So I try to limit it because otherwise, when there is too much of people, the quality sometimes goes down. Because for me also, it's very hard to track now that who is doing the work, who is not doing the work. That it's very hard for me to track. So I limit it. Now, with my 25 batch, now the mock exam series, I'm starting it tomorrow, very busy today. So for them, I usually have kept it limited for 300, but mock exam series, everyone wants to come and do papers, full papers, practice and all. So now I have limited it to 400 people. And so now that 400 slots is also full, now I still get calls and messages from people there. But I made that decision. As a labor, I can make that decision. Just because everyone wants to join, I'm not going to take it. So that's possibility of decision making. And I can organize now for me to run that mock exam series. Now, you all might only think that I am the only fellow here. There is actually in this whole iTutor thing, right? This class that I do, there is around another 25 people behind the scenes working to provide you this class, to give you the recording access, to sort out your tunes, couriering those, right? To make sure your tunes come. And imagine there is how many people, not just your batch. No? Now think of now that is why now even these days, so many of you all would have realized the messages that you all send to the admin, it takes time to reply, because how many people are paying the fees in the first 10 days and sending now? That's why I also tell everyone to pay the fees early. Because when everyone keeps texting, saying, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that, it takes time. So even if you, for example, let's say try to sort a message, now you all still don't have recording access on the website, now we'll sort that for you soon. But it takes time to give recording access to see whether the student got tunes. So it's not easy. So, but I can organize things. So for that, I have hired around 25 people. There are separate people to mark papers, separate people to sort the tunes, separate people to reply messages and sort website access. So there is a whole team. That's labor can do that, Lamai. Possibility of decision making and organization. A machine can't do that. A natural resource can't do that. So if you're a labor, you can do that. And then finally, the payment for labor being wages. If you provide labor as a factor of production, the return you get for it is called wages. If you go and work somewhere, the money you get for it in economic terms is called wages. Return for labor is wages. So those are the few characteristics of labor. So very easy. I'll just go through again. First one, it's a life factor. Life factor means living being. Second one, mobility. Geographical mobility, you can go and work in different places. And occupational mobility, you can do different jobs. Third one, heterogeneity. Labor is different. My labor is not the same as your labor. Fourth one, you can improve the productivity of your labor. You can get more output from your labor. How? By providing them education, by providing them training, right? Giving them experience. You can do that. Then labor can make decisions. Labor can organize things. And finally, the payment for labor is wages. So those are the characteristics. Then we have the labor force of a country. Factors affecting the size of the labor force. So labor force is, we learn this in unit number 11 and 12. Don't worry too much about it. Labor force is like the amount of people who are willing to work. So how many do you think, if you take, let's say, Sri Lanka, right? If you take, for example, in Sri Lanka, now our population is close to 22 million. Do you think all of the Sri Lankans are in the labor force? Red pages, I'll count it. How many people do you think are in our labor force? Our population is 22 million. Do you think all our 22 million people are willing to work? All 22 million, are they willing to work? No. Now, for example, are you willing to work? If you go and tell your parents that, can I go for a job now? I want to stop pay levels and go for a job. You're nicely going to get it. No? Now, do you think your grandparents are willing to work? Sometimes our mothers are housewives. They're at home. Are they willing to work? No. So labor force is the amount of people who are willing to work. So the amount of people who are willing to work in a country depends on what? Number one, depends on the size of the population. Now, if you take India, in India, there are so many people willing to work. Why? Because their population is so big. Compared to Sri Lanka, they have a huge population. They are the highest populated country in the world. So they have a huge labor force. And also the age structure. Now imagine if Sri Lanka has a huge labor force, but everyone is small kids. Sorry, huge population, but everyone are small kids. Then there is no labor force. Let's say Sri Lanka has 20 million people. Everyone is still going to school. then there is no labor force. So it's not just the size, it's also your age structure. Okay, or this thing, your population and your age structure. And then no matter how much of people you have, no matter what your age structure is, what if your people are not healthy? Now think, let's say in Sri Lanka, 22 million people are there, හැමෝටම COVID. Everyone is COVID positive and quarantine. Is anyone willing to work and can work? So you have to be healthy also, your health of your population. And finally, you might sometimes have so much of people, they might be healthy also. But what if they don't have skills? What if they are not educated? What if they don't know what to do? No point. So what affects the size of your labor force? Three things. One is the size of your population. Then you have the health of your population and also the level of education that is has. So that's the who is labor force again? The amount of people in the country who are willing to work. So in Sri Lanka, how many people do you think is in Sri Lanka's labor force now? Our population is 22 million. Can you give me a guess? How much a million of that are willing to work? Give me a rough number, quick guess. 22 million in the population, how many are willing to work? Around 50%, 19 million, 5 million, how much? So Sri Lanka's labor force out of the 22 million is around 8 million. So Sri Lanka has a labor force of around 8 million people. So because you have to deduct the old people, retired people, they are not willing to work. You have to deduct all the small people who are going to school and all like you all have to deduct. You have to deduct all the people like housewives. You have to deduct them because they are not willing to work. No? They're at home looking after their children, cooking, cleaning, doing all of that. So there are so many people. Some people, they have enough and more money, right? Their parents have left them enough and more money. They are chilling and not working. There are people like that also. So all of them, if you remove, in Sri Lanka, there are around 8 million people who are willing to work. That is Sri Lanka's labor force. How many of you, just a fun fact, from this 8 million people, how many of them do you think have government jobs, are public sector employees? From this 8 million, how many are in the public sector who have government jobs? From this 8 million, how much? So government jobs right now is around, it's much lesser than what most of you are saying. It's around a little bit more than 1 million. It's around a 1.2 million wage are in the public sector, are having government jobs. That means the other close to 7 million people have private jobs. Private jobs in private sector, not government-owned businesses. So that is Sri Lanka's labor force. Just some interesting parts. Okay. There was a question about wages and rent. So let me just tackle that. So what is this payment for land, payment for labor? That is, if you provide land as a factor of production, let's say a cow, I have a cow, I give my cow to Ambewele farm. In return, they have to give me something. I won't just give my cow. No. So the money that they give me, the return that I get is called rent. The name for that money is called rent. That 25,000 I get from my cow is called rent. Then if I provide labor, right? If I go and work in a company, or if I do something, if I provide my labor, the money that I get is called wages. It's the return for providing your factor. If you provide land, you get rent. If you provide labor, you get wages. It's a very simple story like that. Cool? Okay. That is done. And then we have this division of labor and specialization. So I'll do this 2 pages. This I will not be reading the word note word by word. I'll explain the overall story. Right. So I'll do this and I'll give you a small break. Okay. And then we can start capital also. Okay. So what is division of labor and what is specialization? We'll start with division of labor. How does division of labor work and what is it about? Anyone guesses what is division of labor? What do you all think? Division of labor කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Okay, dividing tasks, correct. What do you do here? Now, for example, division of labor is where, now let's say if you have a huge work process, now let's say something like manufacturing garments. Garments means clothes, right? So, do you think in a clothing factory, now in Sri Lanka, we have MAS, Brandix, we have those, no? So, do you think in these clothing factories, one person does everything? One person does the cutting, the sewing, the buttoning, the ironing, the packaging, the this thing. Does one person do everything? No, right? Now take the manufacturing of a vehicle. Do you think one person fixes the tire, makes the engine, puts the door, paints the car, fixes the seats, fixes the seat belt, does everything? No. So how does it work in a factory? In a factory or in a production process, you break the production process into smaller parts. Now, let's say we do garments, clothes. So you have, Anna, you have, first of all, you have the cutting department. These people are cutting the cloth. Then you have another set of people who are sewing, right? Then there is another people who are doing the buttoning, right? Then there is another set of people who are doing the ironing, right? Then there's another set who is doing the packaging, right? Packaging and labeling and all. So the production process is broken into smaller parts, and one person is doing only one thing. One person doesn't do everything. Now that is what you call division of labor. One person does one thing. You break the production process into smaller parts, and one person focuses on one. That's called division of labor. Now, as a result of this, what happens, Lavai? Now, let's say for one entire year, you're cutting, 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 and cutting. Now, what happens? You become what? You've been hamadama, you're going to work and you're cutting, 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 cutting. Yes, you might become bored, but what else do you become? You become now specialized in that, right? You're an expert in cutting. Have you all, I know, with your parents or your mother, with your mother, have you gone to, let's say, a place where where you all buy material? Have you seen how the people cut the material? Have you all seen? They put their scissor and this guy is very satisfying to see also. Have you all seen? Now, when we cut, we keep it and chaka, 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 we go like that. Have you seen? They put it and then it goes. That is what? Because they're specialized in that. They have been doing that for so long. They are experts in that thing. Have you all seen now, right now, banks will like now in banks, you have the what? Money counting machines, no, but have you all seen maybe in movies or even sometimes maybe even your relatives or someone who's doing business, you all would have seen how fast they count money. Have you all seen that? They take a pile of money and they count. Now, how do we count money? Right? We take money and 100, 200, 300, that's how we count. No, but have you seen they keep it flat and they do? See, yeah, maybe even the bus conductor. So what is that? Now that is what you call specialization. So when you keep on doing a task over and over and over and over again, you become specialized in that now. You become an expert in that now. Now that is what most people try to do. No? Now, even for example, let's say my classes. Now not that I don't know business studies. If I want, I can teach business studies also. Not that I don't know accounting. Right? I also did CIMA. I also went to a local uni. I also learned accounting. So if I want, I can teach accounting also. But if I go and try to teach econ and BS and accounting and okkama, what happens? It becomes a mess. So instead, I specialize in econ. I only teach econ. I teach econ. I work also in econ, teach also econ. So I become what? Specialized in econ. So as a result, now I'm very productive. I can do things. But if you're doing so much now, for example, now some teachers, they also do O-level classes. Some A-level classes, they also do O-level classes. Let's say O-level commerce classes. But then again, you're not specializing. You're doing this also, that also. Then some econ teachers, they also teach business studies. So that, again, you're not specializing. That is that. So what is specializing? When you keep on doing one thing over and over and over and over again, you become an expert in that. So that is division of labor and specialization. Then what are the advantages of this? So they test this in some papers. So they can ask you what are the advantages of division of labor, or they can ask you it in a more complex way. They can say, how does division of labor increase the production levels in an economy? So how does division of labor help you to increase the production levels? How? Number one, it increases productivity because of division of labor and specialization, right? One person is cutting out. Forget about the sewing we do. Forget about garments. Think about a vehicle. Now, in a vehicle manufacturing firm, let's say like Toyota, do you think one person knows to do every single thing in a car? Engine and suspension and this and that and brakes and tires and paint and everything one person doesn't know. So some people are good at engines. They are good at, fixing engines, sorting things. Some people are experts in tires. So then when you give the right man the right job, what happens? When you keep on doing that, you become more productive. So you don't, then the amount of mistakes you make comes down, you produce much faster, you save time. So all of that increases productivity. So as a result, now that firm can produce more. Then number two, right man at the right place, like I told before. Now, if I try to lamai go and teach business studies and econ and IT and ඔක්කොම කරන්න ගියොත්, what happens? Becomes a mess. I work in the econ field, so I like to teach econ. Right? So that's what you call right man at the right place. So if one person tries to do everything, one person tries to do this and that and everything, it's not gonna work. So you need to have the right man at the right place. Have you all seen this, Lama? Have you all seen in this Rolls Royce, right? So I can't remember exactly what the thing was, right? So in this Rolls Royce, have you all seen? There was a video that was going. So the car brand, that there is only one person in the world that knows to do something about that. I can't remember what. Drawing some lines, Hari. Can't remember what in the car. Some small thing in the car. He's the only guy who knows to do that in the world. Right? Some straight line. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the story is. So that's right man at the right place. Now, if you tell that fellow to me, ඔයා ගිහිල්ලා මේ tire එකත් පොඩ්ඩක් high කරන්නකෝ. අනේ මේ seat එකත් පොඩ්ඩක් දාන්න, engine එකත් you fit. That's not going to work. So you have to give the right man the right job. So coming again, the first one, what is this increase in productivity? Increase in productivity is where when one person does the same thing. Now with the same time, they can produce more, right? Now, that is what you call more productive. Now, if one person tries to do everything, it becomes slowed down, mistakes, all of that happens. No? So then this increases productivity. Wait, the mark code, right? I'm not very sure exactly what that was. Okay. Yes, some hand paint that thing down. Okay. Then those two are done. What is the third one? Third one is Lamai. Dexterity. Don't worry too much about what this dexterity is. Dexterity means Lamai, your skills. So when you keep on doing the same thing over and over and over again, what happens? You become an expert, right? Like this Rolls Royce fellow I told you. He's the only guy in the world who knows how to draw that straight line somewhere in that car. Something. So you do the same thing again and again and again and again. You become an expert in that. Sometimes it's very hard for someone else to come and replace you. Now that happens now. That happens now. Even for example, let's say doctors. Now, doctors have a lot there. Now, doctors think how do you graduate? You go to university product practical color, you do. But just because you graduate, you don't become an expert doctor, let's say neurosurgeon. Now just think how hard this whole doctor thing is. Now just think how difficult it is, let's say, to do an operation. Let's say, for example, there is a blood clot in one of your veins. Right? To properly spot that and get that and do something and remove that blood clot. How experienced they have to be. People like you and me, we can't do that. We can't, we might not even know how to cut a body and find the vein. So for even to, let's say, do a X-ray and then figure out now, X-ray will not show exactly where it is. No, to figure out where exactly that blood clot is. How are you going to figure out? So that's specialization now. When you now, that's why when you take doctors, the good doctors are fellows who are, let's say, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years old. There are young doctors also who might be 25, 30, but they are not experts. They are in the small dispensaries and body world. But if you say who are the best doctors in Sri Lanka, anyone who names it, they'll be how much? They'll be at least 50 years, 60 years old. So 20, 30 years of experience. So that's skill. When you do the same thing again and again and again and again, you're very expert in that. And then because of this, when you're an expert in something, Lamai, you can easily come up with something new. You can come up with innovations. You can come up with new things because why? You know that thing, no? You know that thing in and out. Now think of someone who is, let's say, Hamadama, he's fixing engines. In a car, he's fixing engines. So he's an expert in engines now. He knows exactly how the engine works, right? What happens here, right? All of that. So because he becomes an expert in that, now he knows if he wants to Taggala change something, come up with something new, he can do that. Now, same story with me. And now, when I teach econ over and over and over again, when I become an expert in econ, now if I want to Taggal do something, I can do it. And now, let's say, for example, I came up with a 1,000 MCQ book for my students. So I have 2 books for you all. Will do it later, not now. I soon made 2 books. Soon, it took around 2 years to make. So not easy. No, I also have worked. So little by little, I made 1,000 MCQs and put those into 2 books. 500 MCQs in one book, unit 1 to 6. 500 MCQs in a second book, unit 7 to 12. I have 2 books. So I was able to do that because I'm expert in that. But if I just started doing econ classes, so when you're an expert in something, you can come up with new things, inventions. You can do that. And also, you can talk about when you're an expert, what happens? You save time. Now, when you would have seen, right? You would have seen in these clothing shops how these people cut cloth. Experts are there. It's not side also straight, they cut. So it saves time. And also, it promotes large scale production. So all of these, right? You can go through, I'm not reading the note word by word, right? All of these are advantages of this division of labor and specialization. Or in another way that they can ask you the question is, they can ask you, how does division of labor improve the production in economy? So how does division of labor improve production? It improves the productivity. It gets the right man at the right place. It improves the skills of people. It saves time, right? You can talk about all of that. But then division of labor and specialization is not always good. Why? One big problem is you get bored, no? Right? It becomes very monotonous. You keep on doing the same thing again and again and again and again. Now that is why I don't only do classes. And also, if you realize my classes, I never do 2 classes for the same batch. Now for the 2027 batch, for you all also, what did I tell? Unit 1 I will do on Sunday. After that, I will combine you with the first batch. Because personally, for me, if it becomes monotonous, it gets very boring. Then I don't like it. I do classes because one, I really like it. It has to be interesting. It has to be something challenging also. And the fact why I work as a full-time economist also because I like that job. It's interesting. It's different. Now, let's say instead of doing that job, I can maybe stop that and I can start physical classes. But then what happens? Hamadama, I am teaching. No, every day I'm doing the same thing. For everyone, I'm teaching division of labor specialization, division of labor specialization. Now, I don't know how these teachers, have you all seen certain teachers, they do around 5 classes for the same batch? Have you all seen that? In different institutes. In this institute, they have a class, this institute, they have a class, that institute, they have a class, another institute, they have a class, they have around, then they have online class. They do the same class for around 5 different sets of people. I don't know how they do it. Personally, I can't do that. For me, it becomes very boring. Now, if it's the same thing I'm teaching to these people, today I teach the same exact thing. Tomorrow also I'm teaching the same thing again. Honestly, it becomes very boring because I did that for a very short period. For a very short period, I was working with multiple institutes So for my own institute and for the other institute people, I was doing the same thing. Now today I do this for my institute. Tomorrow I do the same thing for the other institute. I got bored. I said, I can't do this. If I'm going to work with other institute, let all of them combine and come to one. So that's a problem, right? When you do the same thing again and again and again and again, right, it becomes monotonous. You get very bored. Right now, you're not motivated to do it. That thing happens. And then what happens? See, loss of craftsmanship. Loss of craftsmanship means, now, when you're doing a very small thing, now think of a garment factory. In a garment factory, there might be a very talented designer. Right? There might be a person who's very talented, who has very creative ideas to come up with a nice piece of cloth. Let's say a t-shirt, a frock. But because of division of labor, that person gets only do a small thing, right? Either they have to cut or either they have to sew only. So that whole skill you don't get. See, when tasks are broken into small repetitive operations, workers often lose the opportunity to develop complete skills. Now think of a person working in a car factory. One person working in a car factory, he might only know how to fix the tires. He doesn't know how the engine works. He doesn't know how the interior of the cars work. Nothing. He's only tires. So you don't build the complete skill. So that kind of thing can be a problem. And then the other problem is now increased dependence. Now, because of this division of labor and specialization, remember my story about the garment factory. If the cutting factory cutting department, if they don't cut, is there anything for the sewing department to sew? The sewing department is dependent on the cutting department. The buttoning department is dependent on the sewing department. So everyone becomes dependent on one another. Exactly. If one person or one team messes up, everything else gets messed up. So that's what we say, increased dependency. That issue is there. And finally, you have the risk of unemployment because you only have one skill. No? You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. You only have one skill. Let's say if that skill gets replaced with technology. Now, right now with AI coming in, right? All of that. Now, most of the jobs that are being lost is all this, the creative side of things, right? These people who write stuff and all of that. Now, for example, back in the day, now for websites, right? So websites were the content, blog articles, social media post, captions for social media post, and all of that, there were people who were handling. But now with ChatGPT and all of it that is there, you can soon get it from ChatGPT. So see, because if you only know one small thing, that risk of unemployment is there. If technology replaces it, that becomes a problem. That's why I even advise my students also, even for you all, have multiple skills, learn multiple things. Now I teach, I work as an econ guy. So let's say my classes don't go well, I do that. If that doesn't go well, I come this. And I also have a bit of, I know a little bit of graphic designing. I know those kind of things. So maybe if both of these fail, maybe let's say I'll go into marketing. So even y'all don't just focus on one particular skill in life. Have multiple different skills. So then you even have the flexibility. You know? Even if you don't like something, let's say, for example, my office work, let's say, got very hectic. I hate it now. But if I don't have any other skill, I have to go and do no because then only I can earn a salary. But now if my office gets hectic, I don't like it. I will say, okay, fine, I'm leaving. I'll do my class. Or let's say classes get very hectic. Classes get hectic. I hate doing classes. I'll stop class. I'll do that. So having multiple skills is always an advantage. So if you sometimes if you over specialize, if you only know one thing, if technology or something comes and replaces it, you might even lose your job. So those kind of things are there. Is that okay, Lamai? So that's labor and a little bit about division of labor and specialization. Fine. Yeah, so have the ball points, just read what is there also. To explain, Lama, you can explain in your own words if they ask you to explain. You don't have to exactly memorize. Don't memorize. Econ, Lama, please don't memorize. Whatever you memorize, you'll forget. Don't memorize the paragraphs. Just remember a few points. Understand it. We will start. We will do answer writing, especially in the revision class we start next year. We'll do answer writing. Then when you write and write, Lama, the words will come. Right? Your answer writing will improve. So don't worry about memorizing each of these. Just go through, understand the key points. Cool? Okay. So then, shall we take a small break, and then we can come into capital. So it's 8:10. How long of a break do you want? 5 minutes or 10? 8:15 or 8:20? How long? 10? Okay. So we'll take a break till 8. Now it's 9 minutes. So take a break until 8:20. Come back. We'll do this small part, and then we have a quiz that we need to do. So we have an interesting quiz that is there. Don't miss that. Take a break. Right. So we'll start, guys, with the third factor of production. Now we went through land, we went through labor. Let's start with capital. Now, what is capital? Capital, we say, are the man-made aids. So man-made aids can things that are made by man that are used in the production process. So things that are made by man that will aid in the production process, that will help you produce a good or service. That is what you call capital. So capital is anything that is man-made that is used in the production process. So you can say produced. It's a produced means of production. So for example, machines, let's say factories, let's say buildings, let's say different equipment, computers. Now, what is the capital that I'm using to do this class? My laptop, the internet that is there, my table and chair. So all of these are capital. Anything that is made by man that can be used in the factor of, that can be used in the production process. So what are the characteristics? Very easy, no? The first one is it's a man-made factor. So it is not a natural thing, not gifted by nature. It is produced by people. Now take this laptop, produced by people. Take this table or chair, produced by people. So anything that is man-made, that's what you call a man-made factor. Then you say being a real factor. What does this real factor mean? Real factor mean, does that mean the other factors are fake? So here when you say real factor, that means Lamai, it's a physical, tangible factor. So it is something that is physically there. That is something that you can feel and touch and see. That is what you call a real factor. Now take, for example, a machine. You can see that, right? Physically, a machine is there. You can see, feel, and do that. That's what we say. It's a real factor. So man-made is easy, nothing to explain there. That's the first one. Second one, it's a real factor. Real factor means it's a physical, tangible thing that is really there. Okay. And then the third one says being a stock factor. What factor? A stock factor. So what does this being a stock factor mean? Now in economics, you have two concepts. So let me explain. You have Lamai stock concepts and you have flow concepts. Listen carefully. So a stock concept is something that can be measured at a given point of time. I'll explain, don't worry. Measured at a given point of time. A flow concept is something that is measured for a period of time. Okay. I'll give you an example. Let's say my salary. Can I say my salary as at 10th August 8:25 p.m. My salary for 10th August 8:25 p.m. is 100,000. Or can I say my salary for the month of August is 100,000? Which one is more correct? The first way or the second way? My salary as at 10th August 8:25 p.m. is 100,000, or my salary for the month of August is 100,000. The first one or the second one? Which one's more correct? The second one, right? So salary, was it measured at a point of time or was it measured for a period of time? Then he said salary. It was measured for a period, no? We said for the month of August, it is 100,000. So see, an example for a flow concept. Example, something like your salary. You can't say, no, your salary for 10th of August is 100,000. It's for the entire month. Now, I'll give you another example. Let's say something like your bank balance. Okay. Think of your bank. Okay, think of my bank balance. Can I say my bank balance for the month of August was 500,000? Or can I say my bank balance as at 10th of August, 8:27 p.m. is 500,000? Which one is correct? For the period of August or as at this point is 500,000? At this point, right? Because the bank balance changes, Nilavan. Now, can you say bank balance for the month of August is 500,000? Today, some of you all will pay fees. I will make an expense. It will change. So exactly at this point, if I can say how much that is what you call a stock concept. Something like your bank balance, or in other words, your wealth. So you can say exactly at this point, it is this much. That is what you call a stock concept. What are stock concepts? Stock concepts are concepts that can be measured at a given point of time. Exactly at this point, you can say this is the thing. Okay, now take, for example, the exchange rate of Sri Lanka. What do you think, Lavai? Is it a stock concept? At this point, can you say the exchange rate, or do you say a stock exchange rate for Sri Lanka in 2025? It's a stock concept, right? At this point, you can say, okay, for example, okay, on the 10th of August, our exchange rate is this much. You don't say, no, Sri Lanka's exchange rate was 300 rupees in the year of 2025. It can go up and down. So at one particular point, if you can say something, that's a stock concept. Now, if you measure something for a period, that's called a flow concept. I'll give you another flow example. Now, take, for example, Sri Lanka's GDP. You all know, we'll learn in unit number 5. A country's GDP, right? Gross domestic product. Do you say Sri Lanka's GDP as of 10th August is, let's say, 80 billion? Or do you say Sri Lanka's GDP for the year of 2025 is 80 billion? You say for the year. So that is what? A flow concept. So stock concepts are things that you can say exactly at this point how much you have. And then flow concepts are things you measure for a period of time. Now take capital. Take the number of machines. Let's take a factory. In a factory, there are machines. Can you say exactly at this point there are 10 machines? Or can you say in the month of August there are 10 machines? Which one do you think is correct? If you take something like capital, can you say on the 10th of August we had 10 machines? Or can you say during August we had 10 machines? During the month, Lama, it can change, no? Some machines can break down, you might buy new machines, but exactly at this point you can say. So that is why we say capital is a stock concept. It can be measured at exactly this point of time. Now, if you ask me, so how much of capital do you have now? So I will count and tell. I'll say, okay, I have one laptop, I have one table, one chair, I'm living in one house, and I can exactly say at this exact point, this is the amount of capital I have. If you go to a factory and ask, how much of machines do you have? Exactly at this point, they can say. If you go to a factory and ask, okay, how much of raw materials do you have? Those are also capital. No? Let's say ingredients, let's say steel, aluminum, those things. Exactly at this point, you can say, all right, we have this much. But you don't say, no, for a month of this, we have this much. Every day it will increase, decrease, increase, decrease. So that's why we say capital is a stock factor, right? That means, what does that mean? That means capital can be measured. capital can be measured at a given point of time. So exactly at this point, we can say we have this much of capital. That's why it says stock factor or stock concept. See? So those are the first three characteristics of capital. I'll go through that again. What is capital? Capital is anything that is man-made that is used in the production process. Man-made. So the first characteristic is it has to be a man-made factor, not gift of nature or anything, man-made. Second one, it's a real factor. Real factor means a real tangible kind of a thing. And it's really there. At a machine, you can see and feel and touch. Third one, it's a stock factor. What does stock factor mean? Stock factor means you can measure it at a given point of time. Exactly at this point, you can say exactly let's say on the 10th of August at 8:32 p.m., we have 100 machines. You can say that. It's a stock fact. And then number four. Number four is saying possibility to use in production again and again. Now, do you think, Lamai, for every class I do, I buy a new laptop? No. For every class I do, I use my same laptop. So I'm using this in production again and again. That's why I say possibility to use in production again and again. You can use it in production multiple times again and again. You can keep on using it in production. That's number four. And then, but what happens, Lamai, when you use your thing again and again and again and again? Do you think the value of your capital will be the same? Do you think it will perform the same way when you newly bought it? No. What happens? You'll learn this in accounting. When you keep on using something over and over and over and over again, what happens? Yes, the quality might count. No, what happens? We call it, there's a special word for that. What happens to it gets depreciated. Your capital gets depreciated. Now think of, for example, my laptop. Now, even for example, this pen that I'm using, that is capital. When I first bought it, battery life was very good. I can use it for like 1 week. But now the battery life of this pen is weak. Sometimes during the class itself, the battery will run out and I have to charge it only and write. So now it may be maximum I can do around 2-3 classes with this pen without charge. What has happened? It is depreciated. When I bought this pen, there was like a white nice coating around this. Now that white coating has come down, now it's only just the yakada aluminium thing that is there. You see, depreciation. Now take my laptop. When I would have first bought it, battery life was so good, it would have, let's say, stayed for 1-2 days. But now not that great. When I first bought it, laptop was very fast, everything was there. Now not that one. What is happening? Your capital is getting depreciated. The more and more and more you use, your capital gets depreciated. That is what you call number 5, possibility to depreciate. So the value of capital will decrease over time. So your value of your capital will decrease over time, mainly due to wear and tear. The product's quality gets decreased. You can't really say that because you might sometimes replace your capital. Now, for example, just because my laptop is slow or just because my pen's battery life is a little less, that doesn't mean my class's quality has gone down. So don't say product's quality will decrease, but you can say the capital itself will get depreciated. Okay, that's number 6. And then the last one, we say the return for capital is called interest. So if you give capital as a factor of production, the money that you get in return, we call that interest. Now see, this is different from the real world. Now in the real world, what do we say? Interest. If you, let's say, put money in the bank, you will get interest. That is what this. But here, it's different. So here, we don't say that as interest. If you give capital, now let's say I have a building. Building is capital. If I have given my building to, let's say, Cargills to have a what? I have a building. I have given that building to Cargills to have a supermarket. Every month they will give me money. In our normal terms, we will call it rent. But in economics, we will call that interest in this part. So return for capital. If you provide your capital, capital means anything that is man-made. You provide your machine, you provide your car, you provide your building, you provide your factory. If you provide it, let's say for a business, the money you get in return is what you call interest. So remember that return for capital is interest. If you give a building, the money that you get every month on behalf of that is called interest. In our real practical world, we will call it a lease installment or rent, or you will call it something like that. But here we will call it interest. Profit in business. Profit is different. We'll come there. Profit is in entrepreneurship. Okay. So those are the characteristics of capital. Man-made, it's a real factor. Stock factor, you can use it in production again and again. It will depreciate. The return for capital is called interest. So this last point, Lama, return for capital called interest, return for labor is wages. It's not really a characteristic, but you can give it. In your paper, when you're writing, I would say that last point, don't give it as a separate characteristic. You can write the main ones. Just remember that as a point. Okay, right. So then this capital itself, this part I will not do today. Capital itself, Lama, you have various different types of capital. There is fixed capital, circulating capital, economic overhead capital, right? So many different types of capital are there that we can ideally do the next class. But I want to do a small part and I want to finish. Okay. Fourth point again. What's the fourth point? A stock factor. Stock factor means a stock factor is something that you can measure at a point of time. So you can say exactly at this point how much you have. Now take below, for example, capital means machines. Now let's take a factory. So if you go to a factory, you can say, okay, exactly at this point, they have this much of, sorry, that was the third one. No, sorry. Fourth one is a possibility to use in production again and again. Now take my laptop. Every class, do I buy a new laptop? No. Same laptop. I'm using it in production again and again and again. Now take my table, take my chair. I mean, to do this class, I'm using it again and again. So even take a machine, any machine, one time use, you can use it again and again. That's what the fourth one is. Okay, right. Sixth one again, the return for capital is interest. That means if you provide capital as a factor of production, the money you get in return is called interest. If I have a building, if I give my building to, let's say, Cargill's to run a supermarket, they will pay me some money every month. That money is called interest. I provided my capital, building is capital. The return I got for it in economic terms is called interest. That's the last. Okay, done. Then I want to ask you a question. Now here we said that we'll go through the types of capital. We'll do that the next class, but I want to do this small part, this one, right? And then we will go to the quiz. Why is money not capital in economics? Maragese. In economics, we consider money not capital. Money is not considered as capital. Now, usually in accounting, if the owner invests money, what will you do? Cash account debit, capital account credit. You consider money as capital. But in economics, we say money is not capital. Why is money not capital? The reason is, Lama, in economics, capital is a productive resource. Capital is something that will help you produce a good. So with capital, you can produce a good. Now with my laptop, with this table, chair, my iPad, my pen here, I can produce this service. Can I produce this service with money? No. I can't do a class with money, no man. To do a class, I need laptop, I need internet, I need a room, I need a fan, I need that. I can't do a class with money. So capital, right, in economics, money is not capital, because for you to be capital, it has to be a productive resource. You should be able to produce a good with it. If you can produce a good with it, then we call it capital. But you can't produce a good with money. So money is a medium of exchange. Money will help you buy capital. With money, I can buy the laptop. Laptop only I can use to do the class. Money I can't do the class. I can't do the class with money. To do the class, I need a laptop. Money will help me buy capital, but money is not capital. So I'll go through the note here. See, I'm saying money is not considered as capital in economics because it is not a productive resource. Productive resource means you can't produce a good with money. No. So it's not a productive resource. While money can be used to purchase capital, you can use money to purchase capital. You can use money to buy a machine, buy a laptop, buy a table. You can do that, right? Purchase capital goods such as machineries, tools, equipment. It does not directly contribute to the production of goods and services. Money doesn't directly contribute. With money, I buy a laptop. Laptop only directly contributes for me to do this class. Then I'm saying capital in economic terms refers specifically to tangible assets. It doesn't have to be always tangible. You can just say assets that are actively used in the production process. Things that you can use in the production to actually produce something. See, what does money do? Money merely facilitates trade and exchange, but does not produce anything. See, money facilitates trade. With money, you can buy something, buy, sell, ඔක්කොම කරන්න පුළුවන්. But with money, you can't produce a good. I can't produce it now. For example, MAS in Sri Lanka, MAS can't produce garments with money. No. Garments produce garments. They need a sewing machine. They need people. They need cloth. They need that. Money එක clothes හදන්න බෑනේ. That's why we say money is not capital. See, for example, a factory needs machines to operate, not just money. The machines are what actually produces the good. So remember that as a point. In economics, money is only a medium of exchange. Money is not capital. Money is there for you to do transactions, for you to buy capital, money is there. For something to be called capital, it has to be a productive resource, meaning you should be able to produce a good with it. Then only it's called capital. But with money, you can't produce a good. No. So therefore, money is not capital in economics. So just remember that part. Sometimes they kind of test. Okay. So I will keep it there because I need around 10 minutes to go through the quiz as well. Today we did a little bit more than what I would have originally planned also. I originally wanted to finish only until labor. So there was a question. Decision on division labor, increase in dependence. Increase in dependency. Now you are dependent on, for example, the cutting department. The sewing department is dependent on the cutting department. If the fellows don't cut and give the cloth, these people have nothing to sew. If these people don't sew and give, then other fellows don't have anything to package. So there is dependency. If one person messes up or one department messes up, the others can't get anything done. So they're dependent on that. That's what that last one is. Risk of unemployment is now when you do the same thing again and again, when you become specialized in this, let's say that's the only thing that you know to do. The only thing you know to do is cut cloth. Let's say they found a way to replace that with technology. So now you have nothing to do. That's what you call the risk of unemployment, because you only do one thing, you only know that thing. If that thing gets replaced or that thing gets is no longer needed, then you might not be able to get anything. Okay, right. Okay, so shall we go to the quiz? So next class, we'll finish off this capital part. We'll finish off entrepreneurship as well. Entrepreneurship is very easy. And we can do the 3 basic economic problems. So next class, my target is to finish off until page 20. We should be able to. Right? So the basic economic problems will take around 1 hour. Capital, that part will take around capital and entrepreneurship will take around another 1 hour. So maybe next class, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we'll finish off until page number 20. So we are soon catching up with the other people. We'll do that. Cool. So shall we go to the quiz? Ready? Let me load the quiz. Give me a couple of minutes. Yeah, I will show you how you can play this. Don't worry. Yes, then I'm loading the quiz. Okay, so this quiz is a MCQ based quiz. It's a very fun, interesting one. I'm not sure if how many of you all have used Kahoot before, but I'll show you how to log in. I will wait until most of you all come and then only I will start. Okay. So on your screen, you can see a small game pin kind of a thing. So I will also send you a link on the chat box. You can even join using that. For those who know to join, you can join. Right. So you can use your phone, your laptop, any device that you're using right now to come on Zoom, you can use that device. Okay, so what you need to do is you can click on this link that is there. If it's on a phone or something, it will directly take you to the game room. And then you have to enter your name. So please type your name correctly, and then you can join. If not, you can go to this website. The website is www.kahoot.it. KAHOOT.it. Then they will ask you for a game pin. If you directly go to the website, they'll ask you for a game pin that is 977239. Enter the game pin, then enter your name, and you can join. That's what you have to do. So, again, repeating the steps. You can either click on the link I have sent on the chat box. You can use a phone, laptop, computer, iPad. I know any device you can use, Lamai. You can click on the link. It will take you to a website. Enter your name and you can join. Another option is you can go to the website www.kahoot.it. I don't think anyone has the app. You don't have to have the app. KAHOOT.it. They'll ask you for a game pin. Game pin is 977239. Enter that, enter your name and join. Right. So there are around 25 people who have joined. There's another 20 odd left. Can you quickly join? I'll wait for 2-3 minutes, don't worry. So the quiz will be until the end of labor. So I was planning to finish off labor today. So until the end of labor, you all will get questions. So from the beginning until labor. And also remember, in the quiz, the faster you answer, the more points you will get. Each question is out of 1,000 points. The more faster you answer, the more points you will get. So I will start in another 1 minute. Even in the middle, you can join. If someone of you all are having a connection issue or anything, even in the middle, you can join. The quiz will be on. So even if one question goes, you can still join from the middle. So make sure to join. So there is still around another 10, 12 of you all who have not joined. Okay. Right. So I am starting the quiz. You can even join from the middle. Okay. Let's start. Okay, so for those who were not able to join Llama, you can send your answers on the chat box. No problem. Okay. Select the incorrect statement. Economic policies are based on normative economics. Economic theories are based on positive economics. Microeconomics depends on macroeconomics. Microeconomics examines the behavior of the whole macroeconomics. Here's one more thing. Remember that you only have 20 seconds for these. You have to answer fast. Right? So the faster you answer, more points you get. Right? The wrong one here is micro depends on macroeconomics. So you have to be very, very fast. I reduce the timing because otherwise you all copy from the book. Okay, so for those others who are not on the game room, you can give answers on the chat box. Right? You can give the color or something. Okay, first question, let's see, only 3 of you all got it right. Okay, these are leaderboard for now. The next one. Question 2, which of the following is a positive macroeconomic state? Positive macro. Fiscal policy is the best for price stability. VAT increases is bad for poor people. Sri Lanka's economic growth rate in 2014 was not enough. Economic growth is measured by real GDP. That's the last one, no? You have to think faster. Okay. Leaderboard has changed. Okay, next one. Which is an example of a renewable resource? Cultivated land, machinery, petroleum, coastal buildings. Under Natural resources last week we learned. Renewable. Cultivated land, right? Land you can use again and again. So it is renewable. Good. Next one. Okay, leaderboard has changed. A free good is best described as, what is a free good? A good given by the government, a good with zero opportunity cost, a good that creates disutility, a good with a high market price. Last class we learned free good is a name for another type. What's a characteristic? A free good is a good that we call a non-economic good. Non-economic goods are unlimited in supply, right? So you don't have any opportunity cost there. Okay. Most of you have got that right. Good. Okay. Faster you answer, more points you get. Question 5. When is opportunity cost zero? Paying pension to retirees, switching clove for tea, choosing a subject stream, using unlimited tank water for paddy. There are 3 situations where opportunity cost can be zero. Using unlimited tank water. Remember, when you have unlimited resources, remember when we had unlimited sunlight, you can dry your clothes, you can charge your solar panel, you can grow your plants, you can do everything. So when you have unlimited resources, opportunity cost is zero. Everything else, there will be an opportunity cost. You have to sacrifice something. Okay, that's the leaderboard. Next one. Which of the following is an advantage of division of labor? It increases job satisfaction. It encourages large-scale production. It weakens invention. It limits skill improvement. What do you think is the advantage? Which one's advantage? It encourages large-scale production. Good. It doesn't really increase job satisfaction, Lama, because you do the same thing now. So you get bored. Okay, leaderboard has changed. So, what is one disadvantage of division of labor? Increase productivity, monotony of work, encourages invention, saves time. Which one do you think is a disadvantage? Whoa. All of you all got that correct, right? Monotony of work. So it's the same thing that you keep doing over and over and over again. Next one. What makes land geographically immobile? It responds quickly to price changes. It changes ownership easily. It cannot be moved from place to place. It depreciates over time. Why do we say land is geographically immobile? Whoa, nice. All of you got that correct. Because you can't move it from one place to another. Correct. Leaderboard is not changing. Very tough competition on the top. What distinguishes entrepreneurship from other factors? Think. It combines other resources and bears risk. It includes manual labor. It is unlimited in supply. It is always paid rent. What do you think entrepreneur is? We haven't learned it in detail, but you all know an entrepreneur. What does an entrepreneur do? He combines the others, right? Remember now we learned land, labor, capital. But who puts all of that together? It's the entrepreneur. Okay, leaderboard is tough again. Very close on the top. Question 10. Why is the supply of land considered inelastic? It can be produced. All land is owned by government. It always yields the same return. It is difficult to increase the amount of land. Why do we say supply of land is inelastic? Because it's difficult to increase the amount of black. So we have one last question. Okay, that's the leaderboard. The last question, if I'm not mistaken, will have double the points. Normal questions, you got 1,000 points. Here you might get a 2,000. Okay. What is a key risk of over specialization? Skill redundancy due to automation, increased training cost, reduced efficiency, falling output. What happens when you become over specialized? When you are expert of something, you only know that thing to do. Skill redundancy due to automation, right? Because if you are an expert in something, if you only know that thing, yes, you're good at that. You have high efficiency and all of it. But if that thing gets automated, if some technological development comes in, that whole thing is gone, no? So that's why I say skill redundant. Your skill will no longer be needed if there is some level of automation. Okay, so that's all questions done. We'll have a look at the leaderboard. Leaderboard. Right. Yeah. Seshika in third. We have Asandi in second. And whom do we have on first? Right. Yeah, Yusuf on first. So I think it was very tough competition. We have Rayana and Majini on fourth and fifth. So congratulations. Even the last question can change a lot. But remember, all of these questions were a little hard, especially given that you only have 20 seconds to answer. For your A-level paper, you have 6 times more time than this. For A-level paper, usually you have around 2 minutes to answer an MCQ. So I make it a little tough. The question itself is not very hard, but the time is what I reduce so that you don't copy or you don't try to Google. If I give you 2 minutes, you always start Googling for answers. So to avoid that is where you have that. So we will have another quiz, maybe not the next class. After we finish a certain amount of parts, I will have another quiz with you. So on your end, what you should do is continuously keep studying. So congrats for the winners for today. I will see you again on next Sunday. For those who don't have the tute, I will send a poll on the group. Please vote on that. I will sort the tute for you. Cool. Right. So see you all. Have a nice week ahead. So revise and come next week. See you. Bye-bye.